There's this influx of people who go to comic book conventions who have actually never read a comic book. And yet they're at a comic book convention and they're not buying any comic books. It kills me when I do conventions and I mention people like Bill Sienkiewicz and no one knows who I'm talking about. As comic books now have kind of taken over culture and now everybody's a nerd, you're gonna have to just prove it to me that you're actually a real nerd, because real nerds read comic books. Real nerds who know Jack Kirby is, they don't know just who Stan Lee is. Real nerds have read more than one Alan Moore comic book. Real nerds know who Bill Sienkiewicz is. So get up, get your facts straight, learn about comics, and enjoy it. It's not a test. Believe me, when you just tell me that you don't know who these people are, I just think a little bit less of you. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Sweaty Nerds. This week, we are going to talk about Jurassic Park, life-size Tyrannosaurus Rexes. What more do you want? We're also going to talk about one of the original, very first video games before Maude even existed. She didn't exist yet. It was called Space Invaders. Shh, shh, shh. We're also going to get all mystic on you and talk about Alan Moore, the wizard, the warlock, the freak, the amazing, incredible creative genius who brought us Watchmen, he brought us Miracle Man, and he brought us an incredible run on Swamp Thing and tons of other things, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. It's Alan Moore. Well, now he's kind of obsessed with Cthulhu and stuff like that, but look, Alan Moore is the shit. So if you don't know who Alan Moore is and you haven't read his stuff, we're gonna school you on that. Last but not least, James Cameron made a little film many years ago. It's called The Terminator. We got a brand new Terminator. We're always gonna have new Terminators, but let's talk about the original big daddy of them all, The Terminator. Time travel, robots, Arnold Schwarzenegger, The Terminator. All that and more this week on Sweaty Nerds. Let's go through time. Yeah, we go through time together. Here's the worst Arnold Schwarzenegger ever. Back from the future. We shall go through time together. Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Jon Schnepp. Welcome to Sweaty Special Effects Nerds. I'm sitting here with the makeup master, Cig Neutron. What's up, man?
How's it going?
Hey, today we are going to talk about one of the classic monster films. It's Jurassic Park, the original Big Daddy dinosaur film from 1993. This film is one of the perfect synthesis films of old school meets new school, CG meets prosthetic, giant built-out real dinosaurs that you could touch and interact with, and actual CG creations that were pretty flawless for the time. What would you like to talk about with Jurassic Park?
Yeah, I mean, talk about like probably the most like ambitious use of practical effects like up until that point. I mean, they made an entire living, well, not living, but an entire T-Rex suit. Like they sculpted the entire thing.
Yeah.
They you know, I mean, some scenes were CG, but I mean, like that thing, like talk about getting some performances from some actors. Like I know I'd crap my pants if I had to act with that thing.
Yeah, this gigantic T-Rex. Spielberg's like, all right, take 42. You're like, not again. Raining, dinosaur.
In the cars.
Yeah. So you were talking about the sequence with the T-Rex in its eye. Let's talk about
so
that.
they actually, to get that scene where the close-up of the eye and it dilates, that's actually a practical effect. They had a silicone skin with a hole in it stretched over like a rigid ball, and they pulled the skin back, and the skin was painted like the retina or whatever, the colored part of the eye, eyeball stuff. So they pull it back, and as it pulls back, it stretches over the ball, and it gives the illusion of like a...
Wow.
Yeah.
That was not a CG effect.
No.
That was done in real time. Well, yeah, I think it was Stan Winston's team, right?
Yeah.
Didn't they build this giant dinosaur?
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine how many people were on that. But yeah, if you look at the pictures, there's like, you see the innards of this. I mean, there's just tubes and cords, and this thing is like, and the mold itself, like, yeah, once you sculpt something, you have to mold it. So even the molds are even bigger than the T-Rex. Like, I can't even imagine.
And half the size of a building.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got to be giant.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on. Let's talk about one of our favorite friends, the Raptors. So those guys are basically men in suit once again.
Yes, you know, just trickery. I mean, hiding the legs and stuff. But I have one huge pet peeve with this movie. And as much as it's amazing and everything, raptors don't snarl. Reptiles, they don't, there's no anatomy there. They're reptiles. So have you ever seen an iguana? Like, cheese at you?
No.
No, it would just be rigid.
But couldn't they do that from back in the old days?
I don't. The olden raptors.
You unprofessional dinosaurs, snarling. Well, look, I'll give them a pass.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's the effect and stuff, but still, they're reptiles.
Cig Neutron is mad at you for making them snarl.
Getting sweaty.
Let's talk about the Triceratops sequence with where they basically had to deal with a lot of poo. But this was very, very realistic. Obviously, it's a real sculpt of a Triceratops.
Yeah.
And how did they make it breathe?
Well, I mean, I'm assuming there was some sort of pneumatic device that air and probably had like a foam latex skin and used a lot of pneumatics for effects, like blowing air into things, into bladders and things like that. So I'm assuming it had to do something with that.
Laura Dern had to stick her hand in a giant pile of poo.
Cross that off the bucket
Dinosaur
list.
poo, yeah. You were like, hey, I've always wanted to stick my hand in a 55-gallon tub of poo.
Not any poo,
yeah,
dinosaur poo.
It's got to be dinosaur poo, preferably Triceratops poo.
Yeah. I'm partial to Brachiosaurus poo, but,
Brontosaurus poo would work as well. Anyway, guys, I don't know why we got stuck on this poo
shitty
stuff.
conversation.
Yeah, real shitty conversation. Anyway, if you've never seen Jurassic Park, it's time to wake up. I don't know what you've been in some cryogenic sleep chamber.
Get out of the dinosaur poo.
Time pod, wake up. You're just in time for Jurassic World. See the original Jurassic Park. I'm Jon Schnepp, and this is Cig Neutron. Where can people find you, Cig?
Twitter and Instagram at Cig Neutron and bizarrogogo.com.
Tune in next time for another amazing episode of Sweaty Special Effects Nerds. I'm Jon Schnepp. Take care. Hey, welcome to another Sweaty Video Game Nerds show. I'm Jon Schnepp, sitting over here, Maude Garrett.
We're going to go retro this time around, so bring out your arcades, dust them off, and get some Space Invaders happening.
Wob, 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 wob. Ooh, ooh. That's the sounds of Space Invaders. I think I got almost all of the sounds.
Well done.
This is a 1978 game that kind of changed the entire world.
This is Pong on speed, basically.
Yeah.
So the whole back and forth, instead of that, you are up and down, and there's things in the way that can help you not get hit. But when it gets fast and when you start leveling, it is an action-packed game.
Yeah, I mean, literally, it was like Breakout with these friends coming down at you. It's like a living Breakout with alien pals that look like this, and they're just coming down at you.
And you only have one gun.
Yeah, you just have
just one tank. What are you? It's
a little pod thing.
Bot.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, you!
It was this thing, and that's and that's the wah. That's the wah 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 wah. Yeah.
I've only just noticed this, but it kind of looks like a bird's eye view of an 8-bit person peeing.
Wow. And so that could be either your piss or your ejaculate. Right, guys?
This whole time.
I never would have thought of it if it wasn't for Maude Garrett pointing out this little digital person's penis. Oh, look, and this is, I guess this is your condom that you're trying to break through.
These are all the STIs.
Yeah, these are STIs. And that spaceship is the mothership, also known as the vagina,
the home base,
which you are trying to impregnate. We've just unlocked Space Invaders. I can't believe a mind-melding episode of we're busting open the entire video game hemisphere right now, guys and gals.
Well, there you go.
Maude, where can we find you to talk more about impregnating space humanoids?
You can find me in hell, apparently, because that's exactly where I'm going after this episode. Now, you can find me on all social medias, Maude Garrett, and search Geek Bomb or Geek Bombshells, because my little geeky outlet is there as well.
Sweaty Space Invaders. Sweaty nerds. See you later. Wow, 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 wow. Hey, welcome back to another Sweaty Sci-Fi Nerds. I'm Jon Schnepp. Sitting across from me is Chris Gore, founder of Film Threat. You've seen him on G4. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, today we are going to talk 1984's The Terminator. What a fantastic, incredible science fiction film. Chris, let's talk about The Terminator.
Well, first of all, I mean, this movie at the time was so ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love, all the stuff with time. I love any movie with time travel.
Yes.
I think time travel is like a great concept. And the way that it's used in this movie is fantastic. And even like when they would show like sort of like the future visions of what the the apocalyptic version of Earth was like with all these Terminators was insane. What they haven't answered, and I hope that they answer in this future Terminator movies, why do you have to be naked to travel through time? I feel like that is like, the first thing is like, look, you're going to be traveling through time. You just need to take off all your clothes.
Yeah, you'll arrive in the future completely buck naked.
Yeah, whenever I see like a naked man wandering around Hollywood, I'm either like, that's a Terminator from the future, or that's a werewolf that didn't plan.
Yes.
That's my first thought whenever I see naked people in Hollywood.
Well, you were not far off. This 1984 version was the second movie for Arnold Schwarzenegger to bust out in. He was in Conan the Barbarian, did a pretty good job as Conan. This is the movie that put him on the map as like what everybody kind of thought of him back then anyway. Is like, what's he going to do? Play like some kind of weird, strange, lifeless robot that repeats phrases? And he did it so well.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I think that Schwarzenegger definitely thrives in roles where he has fewer lines.
Yes.
Yeah, he's so great. He's so great in this.
Sorry. Speaking of Arnold Schwarzenegger, let's talk about Stan Winston's crazy endoskeleton armature. A lot of people forget, like back in 1984, we didn't have that many computer graphics. We had a couple of movies like Tron where it took like literally 25 minutes to render one frame. So he had a giant room this size rendering Tron. It was literally like two years before that. So they didn't really have the option to have the Terminator robot be a CG creature, which now is just like just a normal thing. Just make it 3D. So they actually built a gigantic life-size Terminator endoskeleton, as well as doing a bunch of stop motion. So this was kind of like in the tradition of the greats like Ray Harryhausen. They did all these stop motion sequences with a Terminator with rear screen projection. So you watch it now, some of those effects don't hold up as well as other films do, but still, it's one of the best action films as far as a science fiction time travel movie with unbeatable action. If you've never seen The Terminator, do yourself a favor. Even if you've seen Terminator 2, you got to go back and see the very original The Terminator. Chris, thanks for being on the show. Where can people find you?
You can find me at chrisgore.com or follow me on Twitter at @thatchrisgore.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Sweaty Sci-Fi Nerds.
Sweaty nerds, sweaty nerds.
Hey, welcome back to another Sweaty Comic Book Nerds. I'm Jon Schnepp. Sitting across from me is Comic Book Girl 19.
Hello.
Today, we are going to talk about the mad magician himself, Alan Moore, casting a spell on you right now with his amazing poetry, comic book style weirdness. What is your favorite Alan Moore story?
I would have to say my favorite is Promethea. Essentially, and you're not kidding when you say that he's a magical motherfucker, all right? He is a ceremonial magician.
Yes.
He is into the whole occult world very much. And Promethea is like his 5-book occult primer for anyone who may be interested in these ideas and concepts. The character of Promethea herself is just so cool. I mean, she's imagination personified, and there's all these this great symbolism, and it just touches on everything. It talks about the tarot, it talks about astrology, it talks about the place of creativity in society and the idea space, and it's just over the top amazing. And J.H. Williams III doing the art.
Oh, what a fantastic art through and through. And I remember one issue was like all tarot. Like every page was a tarot card. Yeah, if you also liked Promethea, he did a whole bunch of other comic book imprints through the ABC line, which was like Tom Strong. He also had an anthology series. And of course, let's go back in time and talk a little bit about the comic book that he was writing back when he lived in London, which he still is in London. But when we were getting it, it was called Marvel Man in London. It came over here as Miracle Man.
Yeah.
And now it's getting reprinted, so you guys can all see this comic book that because of creator rights and all this other kind of hubbub, it's been denied the entire populace because it was such a low print run. I, of course, have the originals. Anyway, if you've never read Miracle Man, it is what Shazam should be. It is the most amazing version of Shazam, Captain Marvel, flipped on its side, Alan Moore style, and my God, Olympus is one of my all-time favorite 6 issues ever made. It's Alan Moore and this artist John Totleben, and it really is like it sums up everything in the superhero genre into one story. It's fantastic, so I can't recommend it highly enough. Miracle Man. The other one would be Swamp Thing. He did a run in the 80s with this character, basically a muck monster, flipped that whole thing on its side. It was like, hey, remember when you thought you were a human? Guess what? You're just a plant that thinks it's a human. Head explode, plant explode, freak out, introduce Constantine, introduce a whole series of incredible, amazing, creepy stories, and he integrated all of the supernatural elements of the DC universe in such a great creative way. I can't recommend Swamp Thing enough, his run.
Oh yeah, he's an amazing postmodern superhero comics writer. In addition to Miracle Man or Marvel Man, also The Watchmen is like the quintessential comic to read for postmodern superhero stuff. That's something that you have to read.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to get into comic books and you want to be able to talk about them, this is a really heavy-hitting comic, and it's just...
Can't stress it enough.
Yeah,
Watchmen,
it's like, where do you even begin to...
Yeah, if you don't, like, you're like, yeah, I saw the movie. That's not reading the comic. Remember, comic books are what you take literature and fine art and combine them into the most amazing thing that's ever been gifted to you, a comic book. So that's where you start, and start with Watchmen. If you want to start with any of Alan Moore's stuff, even if you've seen the movie, you need to read the 12-issue comic that's printed in one big volume. It's an incredible read, page turner, and a fantastic look at the superhero genre. I mean, he basically creates these archetypes and creates brand new characters, but they all represent all the different characters that we know really well.
Yeah.
Last one for me, the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. An incredible saga that he's still writing even now. Multiple volumes where you can check out, Hyde. I mean, all the characters, James Bond's in there. There's a whole bunch of different characters that he's sewn together and written this incredible tableau of history. It's an amazing book.
Yeah, if you're definitely into literature and things like that, and you love literary characters, this is the one to check out. I mean, Dorian Gray, Mina Harker, I mean, you got them all. It's just so much fun, and you can tell that this is one of the comics where he's having more fun than he's kind of a serious guy sometimes. Oh yeah. So with this one, he gets to kind of play.
He has a lot of fun. He had a lot of fun with the Invisible Man. Yeah. Remember that? And then Hyde took care of him. So. Look, that's it for Alan Moore, the magic freak out wizard style guy who's always writing cool stuff. Last one, Necrocomicon. Sorry, wipe that. Last one, Necronomicon. If you haven't read that, check it out. It's insane. Alan Moore. What more can be said about him other than you should be reading more Alan Moore?
Absolutely.
I'm Jon Schnepp. This is Comic Book Girl 19. Where can we find you online?
You can find me on YouTube with the Comic Book Girl 19 show.
Awesome. Check us out later. Jon Schnepp here, Sweaty Nerds, Sweaty Comic Book Nerds, freaking out. Bye.
Freaking out.
Hey, if you're not getting sweaty, you should be getting sweaty right now by clicking on these links. Special effects, video games, sci-fi movies, and the comic books. We're providing you links about everything we just talked about in the episode, plus more. So click on those links, get sweaty, get playing, get watching. Let's get sweaty. Let's get sweaty.